With an annual production rate of around 3 million automobiles, Mexico is the seventh largest passenger car manufacturer in the world. 90% of the automobiles that are manufactured in Mexico are earmarked for export, with the majority, 76%, going to the United States. Mexico is the sixth largest manufacturer of heavy-duty vehicles for freight, and the country is home to 14 manufacturers and assemblers of buses, trucks, tractor trucks, and engines. This places Mexico in the sixth spot on the list. These manufacturers keep 11 manufacturing plants operating, which contribute to the maintenance of more than 24,000 jobs across the country. The United States accounts for 95.1% of Mexico's total exports of tractor trucks, making Mexico the world's biggest exporter of these vehicles. In addition to this, Mexico is the fourth largest exporter of heavy-duty vehicles for freight and the second largest export market for medium and heavy-duty trucks manufactured in the United States, behind only Canada. Volvo Group VW, Mercedes-Benz, Isuzu Motors are among the top companies in this industry. Bavarian Motor Works, BMW, a firm that is renowned all over the world for the production of automobiles, has just established a plant in Mexico. The business intends to utilize this plant to produce more of its well-known 3 Series automobiles in the future. The fact that this factory was constructed in spite of President Trump's persistent threats to automakers is what makes it stand out as a truly remarkable achievement. In spite of Trump's policies and threats, the vast majority of automakers continue to express interest in establishing operations in Mexico. As a result, it is reasonable to assert that Mexico is well on its way to achieving its goal of becoming the automobile hub of the globe. In 2015, Mexico's automotive industry was the jewel in the crown, posting record-breaking sales and production figures that had never been seen before. This industry contributed more than 3% to the country's overall gross domestic product. Mexico finished 2015 with a trade surplus of almost $50 billion, domestic sales of more than 1.3 million vehicles, and production of 3.4 million vehicles. According to the Mexican Automobile Industry Association, during the first 3 months of 2015, Mexico exported 70% of its vehicles to the United States. At the moment, Mexico is home to 8 automakers, namely Ford, Chrysler, GM, Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan, Mazda, and Honda. The construction industry was responsible for the direct and indirect employment of 1.7 million persons in the country. When it comes to the export of autos, Mexico has better arrangements in place than other countries. Companies who establish themselves in Mexico are able to export their wares to close to 70% of the world's population without having to pay any tariffs. Automobile manufacturers receive a significant cost advantage as a result of this, motivating them to establish their operations in Mexico. Take, for instance, a corporation like BMW that is interested in exporting automobiles to various nations located in Europe. If BMW decides to utilize the United States as its base, the countries of Europe will impose a 10% tax on vehicles that are imported from the U.S. If a vehicle is exported from the U.S., the buyer is responsible for paying a tax of $4,000 on the vehicle because the average price at which BMW is sold is roughly $40,000. On the other hand, there will be no obligation to pay tax on the vehicle in the event that it is exported from Mexico. Because of this, BMW will have a cost advantage of $4,000 if they export their products from Mexico. This cost advantage can then be passed on to consumers, which will ultimately lead to an increase in sales. Therefore, it is safe to conclude that Mexico's favorable trade arrangements are one of the reasons that automobile manufacturers are lining up to build a plant there. This is because Mexico has a lot of trade deals that are in Mexico's favor. In recent years, BMW is not the only firm to establish a manufacturing facility in Mexico. Additionally, Volkswagen and GM are making their mark in Mexico's automotive industry. As a result, it shouldn't come as a surprise that Mexico ships out 80% of the automobiles it produces. The market for automobiles in North America is perhaps the greatest in the world. The only other low-cost producer that is geographically close to North America is Mexico. When compared to similarly equipped vehicles created in the United States, the price of a vehicle manufactured in a Mexican factory is approximately $1,000 less. This is due to the fact that the typical Mexican worker in the automotive industry is 24 years old, making them relatively inexpensive at $40 per day. It is for this reason that a great number of American businesses have relocated their manufacturing facilities south of the border. This cost advantage can largely be attributed to the trade pact that the United States has struck with Mexico. There are still a number of ways in which the American automotive industry is dependent on its Mexican counterpart. For instance, the United States is the only country that produces many of the replacement parts that are used in American cars. If significant tariffs are placed on Mexican imports, it will be up to the American consumer to cover the additional cost incurred by these measures until domestic American industries begin producing the relevant components. Mexico's strategic position has been an additional factor in the country's rise to prominence as a major automobile hub. Mexico serves as a connecting point for a number of significant commercial routes. It also provides a natural path to Europe, South America, and Asia, in addition to North America. This contributes to the formation of logistic hubs as well as manufacturing centers. As a result, Mexico has become the place of choice for the majority of multinational corporations that wish to import raw materials, build automobiles, and establish distribution supply networks prior to finally shipping items to their final locations. Location is one of the most important aspects of the supply chain sector, right up there with supply chain integration. Because of this, Mexico is quickly becoming a center for the surrounding regions. The majority of cities in Mexico are located within a few hours driving distance of either the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean. Because of this, transporting autos in either direction is a straightforward endeavor. Mexico's production costs, on average, are a large portion of a fraction of what they are in other countries. As was just discussed, vehicles manufactured in Mexico take advantage of cheaper costs associated with labor and are exempt from paying import duty in many nations. However, automobile businesses who establish themselves in Mexico pay a comparatively low amount of tax. Companies who establish a plant in Mexico are eligible for tax holidays and other types of tax relief from the Mexican government. In addition, the cost of electricity is significantly less expensive in Mexico compared to the United States. This results in significant cost reductions as well, due to the energy-intensive nature of the automotive industry. Solar power allows Mexicans to generate electricity at lower prices than other nations, giving them an economic advantage. To sustain and accelerate this economic progress and achieve long-term goals like poverty reduction, Mexico must address underlying structural challenges. These challenges include limited access to financial resources, concerns related to security, and a high degree of informality in the labor market, as well as regulatory complexities and bottlenecks in infrastructure development.